Welcome everyone to the Streakers podcast. We are the ones that got away. I am Mason Migliara. That is Patrick Previty. We are back. We are new. We've got ourselves on YouTube now. So for everyone that's watching on YouTube, these are our little faces. I got a beard. Patrick doesn't, but that's okay. But if you're listening on Spotify, maybe I sound a little bit different because I am wearing a headset with a mic. You're no longer just hearing through my laptop audio. It is now a little bit better, but we're still going to work on me getting a mic. But college student budget stuff happens. But Patrick, instead of asking how are you doing, I have a question I want to ask you.
Oh God.
Now that now that we are past Thanksgiving, is Christmas music allowed? Although it is November 28th, is Christmas music allowed right now?
Absolutely. Christmas music has been allowed since the summer, probably.
Oh,
Like a little Christmas in July. Dude, I went out to like Bounce, I think, the other day, and they play it, man. They play Christmas music. Everybody, whenever they play the Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas Is You, everybody eats it up. I think it's fair game. And downtown they'll play it too. I mean, I like it.
this is why you're my podcast buddy because I love Christmas music. I can listen to it all day, every day. Doesn't matter the season. I could be depressed and I'm like, nope, Christmas music, it's time for it. But you know what it is time for? It's time for some football. We just had Thanksgiving weekend wrap up. And when that Thanksgiving time comes around, if you're in your fantasy leagues, you're in that home stretch. You know, you got the playoffs coming up, and also in the NFL, the playoffs are coming up. You're starting to realize, like, okay, if we want to make a run at this, like, this is where we need to go. This is what needs to happen, and everything like that. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, and teams are deciding, well, we're not doing anything. It's over for us. And that's what the Panthers just did. They just got rid of Frank Reich. And after what, a 1-10 start? Who was their one win against? I can't even remember.
Oh gosh,
Um,
I'd have to
oh, it was
I'd
the
have to look at
Texans.
that. The
It
Texans.
was the Texans. It was like that 15-13 win. It was after CJ Stroud was having himself a hell of a start to the season. And then you're losing to Bryce Young and the Panthers. Like, that was tough. But what are your thoughts on Frank Reich being out as the head coach there in Carolina?
So where do you go from here? Okay, so you brought in Frank Reich in the offseason and you passed on Steve Wilkes, who was your D coordinator and took over last season. You wanted to pair your, future of the franchise with an offensive-minded head coach. Frank Reich has obviously had I think, a decent resume before he got the job with the Panthers. Obviously, the didn't end well with the Colts, but I think that they were looking to pair him with Bryce Young. So now where are you going? I don't think that they're going to give up on Bryce Young. They don't have their pick that would be the number one overall pick. The Bears have it. So where are you going? Well, I'm confused why they didn't want to give him an extra year. I believe I saw a stat where it said he was the least he had the least amount of games coached in his first year with the team since 1970. I believe there was a guy coached the 49ers only 9 games into the season before he got fired. Frank Reich, this is obviously not his first, rodeo as a head coach. So he doesn't fit into the mold of like a Nathaniel Hackett or an Urban Meyer, who also got fired in their first years in the past couple of years. But I was really surprised. I got to be honest. I think if they were going to make a move, um, I would have thought that the end of the year was what they would have done. But like I said, I was surprised.
I think this is bad management, because Bryce Young is a first year quarterback and he's obviously not having a good year. Just to have his head coach thrown out, who probably had a huge role in picking him as the number one overall
Well,
pick.
the reports are that he wanted CJ Stroud really bad. And
Really?
yes, and David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, went over him. And
Yeah.
David Tepper did say something. I know you don't like this man. I know you think that he's the problem with the Panthers. Took over what, 5, 6 years ago, I think now.
Something like
Maybe
that.
maybe a
Yeah.
little bit longer than that. I believe after they went 15-1 and went to the Super Bowl. But he just came out with a quote today that's actually kind of hilarious. He said, and quote, "I would like someone to be here 20 to 30 years. I like to have someone say the eulogy at my funeral in 30 years. Okay, maybe 40 years. This is uh this is getting to the territory of maybe being a little bit unrealistic. That was on what he's looking for in a new head coach. Um, I think Bill Belichick is, well, he's definitely the longest tenured head coach.
Yeah.
I can't really remember when. the last coach was outside of Belichick that spent 20 years with the franchise. Don Shula, maybe Tom Landry. I mean, Parcells, great coach, bounced around. I mean, Andy Reid's been on the Chiefs since what, 2013, maybe?
Yeah.
So Pete Carroll's been with the Seahawks for a minute. Sure.
Hmm.
He might get there. But Mike Tomlin's been with the Steelers now for a while. He'll get there.
Harbaugh.
I mean, I have Bill Cowher, all of the Steelers head coaches. But for the most part, that's very unrealistic. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly,
And he
exactly.
just fired a coach in a year.
Less than a year. Like
Yeah.
he clearly he's got a short temper. Like I don't know. But if he's talking about maybe 40 years for a eulogy, he would be 106. I'm sorry, buddy, you ain't making it that far, and you're not going to make it as as an owner at 106. Like that's just not going to happen. Even 96, like you're not going to still be an owner. You're probably going to be an owner until you're about, I don't know, 80 or so. So I don't know what he's saying there. He clearly doesn't have much brain on him because he decided to go with Young over Stroud, and Stroud is just proving that point day in and day out so far this season. I mean, he's got his team in the hunt. Meanwhile, Bryce Young doesn't even know who to throw the ball to because clearly he can't be throwing it to Mingo. Did you see that video of Jonathan Mingo?
Yes. When the one that he flew out of bounds.
He literally flew. It was like he was trying to catch the ball and toe tap out of bounds. It was insane. And I don't know. There was so much hype around this Mingo kid, but he has not panned out for them, and nothing with the Panthers has panned out. I feel bad for Adam Thielen, man. He went over there thinking that he was going to be like this nice little veteran, and I mean he's gotten some points if you have him on fantasy and everything, but overall, like it's a big yikes
I was just
over
about
there
to
in
say that
Carolina.
Adam Thielen's probably a fan favorite right now. I think he's winning some people their leagues. At least he's a very, very good. Is he
Not
wide
last
receiver
week.
too? Oh well, yeah, sure. I don't know where the Panthers go from here. I think in such a poor division, there was maybe a little bit of buzz being like, hey, they could win some games here in the NFC South. I mean, you thought Bryce Young could have been possibly the best quarterback in the division, with
Mhm.
Derek Carr's up and down year with the Saints, but um that's just not the case at all. But moving into other things that we've missed since we've been gone, LeBron hit 39,000 points. Now, I'll pose you a question. Do you think that he could get to 45,000? Because I ran the math on this a little bit. I ran the math a little bit. I think he would need like 26 to 24 to 26 points per game over the next like three years or so. If he were to play like 65 games, I believe he could approach 45,000. This is also getting into an unbreakable record
Mhm.
territory.
Like this is sustainability over what, 20 plus years almost.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I think yeah, 20 or 21.
Something like that. Like if he continued to play to get another what, 3 or 4 years, and if he continues to play at this high of a level at this age, it's absurd. He's the oldest player in the league right now, and he
Yeah.
is one of, if not the best player in the league at the moment. So it's insane that he's doing. How old is he? Isn't he like 38, 39 years old? Somewhere around there. I don't keep up on basketball like that much. I mean, obviously I know LeBron, but I don't know his exact age or anything. I don't
He's
care that
38.
much.
He's 38,
38.
but he'll be
Okay.
39 this season.
Okay. So let's say he plays, oh my God. Like what athlete has played into like his age 44 season
and
at
and
like
been
an
that and been
elite.
that good. Vince Carter like was nowhere near where he was like when he retired based off of like he had like Vince Carter had like a prime and then he had like the past his prime and then he had those really old years where like he
uh
was breaking records for being how old he
Old.
was. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
essentially. LeBron is just consistently now the best old player ever in NBA history, and it's been like that for a minute. I mean, I remember year 17 stuff, seeing memes when he dunked on Nurkic. You you're just continuously like astonished by how well he's playing at such an old age. I think the only thing that's really stopping him about like reaching 45,000 is I know he wants to play with Bronny. And
As he
with
should.
with everything that Bronny's going through at USC, I don't know like exactly what his timeline is. It's now I think maybe been pushed back a little bit. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on with that, so I won't speak on it too much. But if Bronny is going to take another year or two, I think LeBron might even stretch it out. Like I don't know what his timeline really or what he wants. I know there was retirement rumors, um, last off season. I don't think so. Yeah, like he was just posturing. They had just got bounced. I don't think that was anything really serious, but I think it's really just whether or not LeBron wants to hit that number or he wants to do something. Like he could realistically, like I remember like Tom Brady, like in his final year, he probably could have went a little bit more. Like he probably could have
Mhm.
played a couple more seasons realistically, as
Yeah.
crazy as it sounds. I mean, obviously there's going to be a point of, diminishing returns. LeBron isn't going to want to put himself out there, I think, where he's at, averaging 18 points per game or something like that. As
Uh,
many great athletes don't want to do, but it's
The
really up to him.
the question that you asked me, can he get to 45,000? Yes, he can because he's LeBron, and if he wants to do it, he will. I strongly believe that. And for the thing with Bronny, like if he wants to play with him, maybe it could be a good thing that it takes a couple of years because if LeBron wants to play with Bronny, then he's gonna be able to finish out. I don't know what his contract looks like in LA, but he'll be able to finish that out, whatever that is, if that's what, another 1, 2 years. So he doesn't have to force his way out of LA. He can go easily to wherever Bronny's at. And that will be a huge storyline for when he is ready to be drafted because it's like, oh yeah, you have the number one overall pick. Do you want Bronny and LeBron James? Because that's what is probably going to happen. You're going to get the both of them no matter where no matter where it is. So again, if he wants to get to 45,000, he can. If he wants to play with Bronny, he can because he is LeBron James and he's shown that he can literally do anything when it comes to playing basketball and anything on the court.
Absolutely. Going into other things that we have missed, the Broncos. Did we pronounce them dead? Did we pronounce them dead at the beginning of the year? I
I
don't think.
think
I
I
remember we
did.
talked. I remember when we talked about it and looked at their schedule. We were like, no way
No
are they
shot.
going to be able to salvage this season. Now they're ahead of the Chargers. We'll get into that later. They're ahead of the Raiders. They also had their coach is gone, been gone. Um, they're
Sitting
on a
on a
five
five
game
game
winning
win
streak.
streak.
They're on a
Yep.
5 game winning streak. This is this is pretty great territory, I'd say, for them. They're kind of back. Um,
Kinda.
oh well, okay, well, so they're not in the playoff picture just yet.
No.
So they still have some work to do. I don't know if they're going to be able to jump some of these teams, but I'm looking at it right now, and I don't think it's impossible. I think the Texans being right in front of them is an interesting thing because they're not in the playoffs either, and I think the Texans will eventually make it.
That's who they play this week too. They're going to Houston and playing the Texans. That's going to be a huge game for this week. They're
Absolutely. That's one of the most interesting games I'd say in this upcoming
100%.
week. But here, look, I'm looking at this. I think the Ravens, Chiefs, Jags, and Dolphins. I think with the Jags win, controversial win over the Texans this past week, I think that those are pretty much set in stone as the division winners in the AFC.
Most likely.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
so now I'm looking at the Steelers, the Browns, and the Colts. I don't
Steelers,
like them.
Browns.
I don't like them as the final three. I think I could
Mhm.
see the Texans and the Broncos sneaking in. The Bills have some work to do now with their
Yep.
loss against the Eagles. But if I'm looking at it right now, I think that the Broncos could get, especially above the Colts, if they
The
win against the
Colts,
Texans.
I would not be surprised if those three teams that are in the wild card right now are none of the three that are left at the end of this. Because the Steelers, listen, I don't care that they're sitting at 7-4. We've been saying it all throughout the entire podcast. How are they here? They got rid of Matt Canada. He's gone now. So they had a good week last week. Um,
Yeah, their first
like,
400-yard game.
yep, in a very long time. But I haven't seen anything out of Kenny Pickett that really just wows me. So maybe I'm just a huge doubter in Pittsburgh, and I'm fine with that. I just don't see Kenny Pickett bringing this team to the playoffs. The Browns, they don't have Deshaun Watson anymore. I don't see them doing anything. And now DTR, he's out with his concussion injury. We don't know how long that's going to be. So I
Yeah,
don't see them.
I would be, like I said, I've said this before. When Jimmy G got concussed, I don't want to see him back next week.
Mhm.
He got smacked. That was a tough hit.
I actually didn't even see the hit,
It
but
wasn't it wasn't a head-to-head hit. I believe they still called the penalty on it for roughing the passer or
uh,
targeting or whatever. But it wasn't like a head-to-head hit. It was actually clean. But man, we're just seeing it a lot. But when the head hits the
the
ground,
turf, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, with both of those teams, the Steelers and the Browns, they both have damn good defenses. So those defenses is what can carry them to that playoff spot. So as long as they have a quarterback that can manage a game, then I can see it. But I just I don't know. It's possible. It's possible they can do it based on those two defenses, with Cleveland being the number one in the NFL, I believe, and then the Steelers obviously having TJ Watt and the rest of the people there. They've been great all year. And then as for the Colts, I'm sorry, Gardner Minshew isn't leading them to the playoffs. They don't have that good of a team, in my opinion. Sorry, Pat McAfee, but I just don't see it for them. I would love to see Houston get in. I would be very happy to see the Denver Broncos get in. I would love nothing more than to see the Bills on the outside looking in. That would be phenomenal as the Dolphins fan here. But everything else, like Raiders, no. Bengals, probably not. Chargers, they're a whole mess. Titans, no. Jets and Patriots, they're long gone. Like, I don't even care that Aaron Rodgers is coming back. That's a whole nother conversation that we'll have probably at another time. But if I'm gonna predict some AFC playoffs right now, we're looking at the Ravens, Chiefs, Jags, Dolphins as your division winners. Not in that order, particularly. Who knows what'll happen as the season goes. And then I'm gonna go with the Texans, the Broncos.
You might have to choose an AFC North team here because the Bills have
Yeah,
Kansas City next week, or after
the
their bye.
Bills have a gauntlet still that
Ugh.
they got to go through. Their schedule does not get any easier.
I mean,
So
I don't think they would have to win out, but
no, but
they need
yeah,
help.
maybe
Maybe the
another
Steelers. I think the Steelers. I mean, I
maybe.
regretfully I say Steelers
Hmm.
um could get in. I think with the way that the Bengals are right now, they still got another matchup with them on the schedule. They got the Cards, Pats. I mean, they do play the Colts, so that'll be a big game. I mean, they
Yeah.
end the season with the Seahawks and the Ravens.
Mm,
But who knows? The Ravens might sit some
bench.
players. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that actually might work out in their favor. I agree with you. I think that that's what it looks like. I'm not ready to jump off the boat of the Bills, but it's looking really murky. They needed that win against the Eagles.
Yeah.
But moving into another thing that we missed, Draymond Green choked out a man on a basketball court.
For no
This
reason.
this happened the night that we filmed our last episode 2 weeks ago.
Mhm.
So we just barely missed it. And since then, he's been suspended for 5 games and says that he lives his life with no regrets.
No
Uh,
regrets.
are you surprised at all by those
No.
comments?
No, not at all. It's Draymond Green. You think he gives a shit? Like, not a shot. He doesn't care. He's Draymond. Like, he punched his own teammate for crying out loud. So,
But it
I
looks
mean,
like he was right with that because Jordan Poole is having, you know,
yeah,
not a
he's
great,
having issues
not a
over
great
there.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Rough time in Washington. All right, here's
yeah.
what he said. I don't live my life with regrets. I'll come to a teammate's defense anytime that I'm in a position to come to a teammate's defense. What matters to me is how the people that I care about feel, first and foremost. How are the people that I care about affected? How are the people I care about? What do they have to deal with? That's it for me. Okay. I guess when you phrase it like that, sure. No regrets. But you can't just fight players like willy-nilly, man. He's dishing out
Yeah.
headlocks like Oprah dishing out cars. Like
Cars.
this is getting crazy. I- Am I I don't know. I wouldn't have given him any more than 5 games, even though I'm talking like this. Like it just is what it is. The NBA doesn't really punish like that. I mean, Adam Silver, flaccid commissioner. But great commissioner, probably the best commissioner in
In all of
yeah,
sports.
in the four American sports, but
Yeah.
they're not gonna lay the hammer down. I mean, and at the end of the day, like Gobert is like, okay, he's still alive, I guess. I guess that's kind of the
He's
the
fine.
measuring stick for
It
these
was
things.
It was so funny watching that video because Gobert's just going to kind of break it up, and then all of a sudden you just see Draymond Green just grab him by the neck, and Gobert's like, "What the hell is going on?" Like so confused. It, it reminds me of a funny situation I had a couple years ago. Actually, I was out one night with some friends, and um my friend, someone was poking at him, like messing with them, and then I decided I was gonna choke out my own friend. No idea why I did it, and they still dog on me up to this day. They're like, Mason, do you remember that time you choked me out? I'm like, guys, it was, I don't know. So it's just for no reason people choking out people, and yeah, so it's just kind of funny to see that. But again, back to the sports side of it, I think a 5 game suspension is just fine. Um, but like whatever.
Yeah,
Boys
they
will be
got
boys, right?
yeah, sure. They got bigger things to worry about anyway, man.
Yeah.
The Warriors are 8-9. The West is looking good, and the Timberwolves are 12-4. They got the best record in the league outside of the Celtics. And shout out the Magic, 12-5. I have to mention that. I have to.
Oh,
They
100%.
are looking so good, man. I mean,
They
this is
are.
this is great. And Paulo Banchero, his his numbers haven't skyrocketed. He hasn't taken that statistical second year jump that people like if they were only looking at the box score would see, but he has been so much more efficient and he
Mm.
is light years ahead of where he was last year. I just felt like I had to mention that.
No,
Okay, going
100%.
in going into some of the recent stuff.
Well,
Uh
wait, recent stuff. You hit yourself a little parlay now, didn't you?
oh yes, okay.
Please,
Yeah,
please tell me.
before we talk about okay, yeah, I completely forgot about this. Before we go into some of the coaches and talk about them getting fired. Yes, I had a juicy parlay plus 1453 value, put a couple bucks down and was able to return I think like 31 bucks. I had Broncos money line, Rams money line, Chiefs spread, Josh Allen over point 0.5 interceptions, and Lamar Jackson over 27 and a half pass attempts. That Josh Allen line should tell you how this season's going for him. Um, and honestly, none of them really were sweat. The Chiefs were tied, I believe, at half, but they took care of business in the second half. That wasn't close. And the Broncos and Rams look good against the Cardinals and the Browns. So wasn't crazy competition. Loved it. All 4 o'clock games except for the Ravens won. And Lamar Jackson threw the ball plenty against the Chargers. So I was very glad that I hit that.
Good on
We're
you.
yeah, we're gonna try to incorporate more betting into this. But admittedly, we are still learning.
We are still learning. I've been using different apps all the time for a couple of years now, and I'm god awful. I am so bad. Like it's unbelievable how terrible I am with these different sports parlays, all that stuff. It's unreal. So maybe we'll have to cook up a few here in a couple episodes, and or maybe I just have to tail you on everything, and it
Yeah,
might work out.
I
So
did
we'll
that
have
one
to
on
see.
Fliff. The Fliff gives you that free dollar. So I had a
Lift.
couple free
Yep.
dollars saved up. So
There
that's
you
what I
go.
used it from. But
Yeah.
getting into the head coaches that are getting whacked currently. We had Josh McDaniels is gone. We mentioned Frank Reich earlier. Is there any potential names out there that I might want to be gone, Mason, that you can think
Oh,
of at the top of your
let
head?
me just take a wild guess who you want gone. His name is gonna be Brandon Staley.
Oh my gosh, you know me so well.
Oh, I know you so well.
How is this
Yeah.
man still employed? He should have been cashing unemployment checks for like 2022.
Oh
This
my
is this
gosh.
is getting ridiculous, man. I mean, I don't know why the Chargers don't like try to see if they have a head coach on their staff. I mentioned I didn't think that the Panthers should have fired Reich because he's in his first year. But the one good thing about it is that if you do fire somebody, you could see if you have a head coach on their staff. I don't believe the Panthers are good at that because they, brought in Steve Wilkes, ended the year well, and then did not, like bring him in for the head coaching position or sign him, bring him in for the following year. They were like, nah, like we're going with Frank Reich. So I don't like what the Panthers are doing at all. But if there is one silver lining to firing your head coach midseason, it's figuring out if you have somebody on your staff. I don't see why the Chargers wouldn't do that at this point, especially with their loss this past week. I mean, they're on a 3 game losing streak. all competitive games. I mean, they had a shot against the Ravens
Mhm.
late in that game on Sunday night.
Take away that Zay Flowers rushing touchdown, it was a 13-10 game. So, and I think that they've lost, what is it? Now eight. Well, I guess last night wasn't a
One possession game.
one possession game,
I
no,
got it
because
up
it
right
was
here.
20-10.
Dolphins first week 36-34. Titans second week 27-24. Cowboys 20-17. That's week 5. And then Lions a couple weeks ago 41-38. Packers 23-20. That was 2 weeks ago. So you got 5. You got 5 one loss L's.
I thought they had lost a bunch of them in a row that were one score, but they beat the Vikings 28-24. They beat the Raiders 24-17. I don't know what it is I saw with that. I thought they had like a 7 game losing streak of one score games. But
Well,
regardless,
they have 7 losses. So I mean, I will say like that is for 5 of them to be one score. And a lot of these are 3 and under,
mhm,
actually. So
yeah.
it's been by a field goal, which is actually pretty interesting too. They're very close games.
What I believe as well is if it's not Staley with his dumbass coaching decisions, it's Justin Herbert with the lack of execution because there's been countless times the Dolphins game, the which other I mean last week on Sunday against the Ravens, he had a chance to go and win that game. Those are just 2 instances that I'm thinking of, but I know there's been more that he'd get the ball on the 20 with under 2 minutes left, and he goes three and out, or he just doesn't get them into field goal range to where they need to be. So, although Brandon Staley has not been good as a coach, it's also been a lack of execution by Justin Herbert. Elite quarterbacks will lead you to the position that you need, which is what, the 40-yard line, give or take, depending on your kicker. And they got Dicker the kicker over there in LA. So they all like him over there. So they trust him with long field goals. So I think it falls on him a little bit as well, and I think it needs to because he hasn't really been that clutch. So I
That's interesting. I'm not hearing that from not specifically not hearing the opposite of what you're saying, but I feel like he's almost getting a pass until they do move on from Staley. Staley, a defensive coach, this defense has not been where it needs to be. And
oh
obviously the Chargers have dealt with some injuries as the Chargers seem to always do. I mean, are you saying I don't want to put this on you right now, Mason? Would you say that he's getting a pass? Because I almost feel like
mm,
he's very good.
I, no, he's great. He's definitely like a freak of an athlete, and he's a fantastic quarterback. But it's just there's sometimes those you don't have that clutch gene in you right now. And maybe it's because of Brandon Staley. And when you're talking about do they have a head coach on their team, their offensive coordinator is Kellen Moore, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm
he could be a head coach. Like you could give him that shot. He's been at the top of the offensive coordinating position, I guess, for a really long time. So
I don't know
maybe
if I see
if
Kellen Moore as a head coach, but go on. We'll circle back to that.
no, I mean, I think off the top of my head, I don't know their coaching staff off the rip on the like the back of my hand, but that's the one person that I would think like, hey, give him a shot. He's been with the Cowboys for however long, so I think that he does deserve a shot. And there's other people like Ron Rivera and everything, but like he could be fired. Eric Bieniemy, we can move into that, but
Oh,
yeah,
if
I've lost my
okay.
train of thought.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, I apologize. Okay, we'll get back on it. If Eric Bieniemy is not the Commanders head coach this upcoming year, um, and I'm the Chargers, I you might have to move on from Kellen Moore because obviously you're bringing in Bieniemy, but I would I would
Give him
literally
everything.
huh?
Give him everything.
Yeah, I would give him everything. He can come move in and he can just make himself at home and
I,
it's his team.
I think if the Chargers lose this week, they play the Patriots, who are a good. Oh my goodness, they are a mess.
Yeah.
If they lose to the Patriots this week, that has to be the nail in the coffin. That has to be the ninth life that Brandon Staley has because he's got to be on his ninth. He might be lucky with a tenth right now.
Imagine if they lose in like a shootout to the Patriots. Then he's
Oh my,
definitely gone.
there's no, I can't. I that would be absurd. So I think that's what needs to if they lose to the Patriots this week, it's got to be over for Brandon Staley.
Yeah. Okay. So we mentioned, so we've talked about Brandon Staley, and I think, look, I love what Bieniemy's done with Sam Howell. I mean, he's obviously thrown some awful picks in the past few weeks, but
He
for
has
the most,
300 yards against the
yeah,
Cowboys. That's
yeah. I mean,
impressive.
well, at least I does he still lead the league in passing? I believe he still does.
I'm not
Um,
sure.
but he did a couple weeks ago. So Bieniemy's got him right. I think he's showing that he can make it work on a different team that's not the Chiefs. So I'm sold on Bieniemy. And I don't know if Ron Rivera is going to be the coach at the end of the year. I think the Commanders are just kind of seeing this season through right now, and more power to him. But I think Bieniemy, if he's not the coach of the Commanders next year, he will be the coach of a different team because I think
It's
everybody's ready to
time.
see that. Yeah, it's time.
It's
And we
time.
probably didn't really even need to see this, to be fair. We didn't need to see him make a lateral move. But it just is what it is. It's happened. Can't change the past. But he'll I think he'll be a head coach next year. So bringing up another name before we move into other topics, Robert Saleh, kind
Hmm,
of building a bad record right now.
very
Um,
bad.
is there any shot? I don't think so.
Just with how this season has gone after the first four plays and what happened, I think that the entire Jets are just going to be like, this season is not what we wanted. And it's just an unfortunate event that occurred. Their field, I will, we will keep one word that we don't say on this podcast. We will keep the F word out of it, but F that field because it cost Jalen Phillips the rest of his season, and now the Dolphins signed Jason Pierre-Paul for that. I wish they could have pulled J.J. Watt out of retirement for that. How crazy would that have been? That's another topic. But yeah, that field is just god awful.
Yeah,
It's
that injury
killed
was
so many
disgusting.
careers. It was exactly what happened to Rodgers. Like it was, you saw the pop, you watched it happen. So, and for such a promising young player like Jalen Phillips, he's been so good for us. Major kill for our defense, but we're straying. Robert Saleh, I think the Jets, they're going to take this as a pass, and he's going to get a shot to work with Aaron Rodgers and a healthy team and everything next year. And if it doesn't work out next year, then I can see it them changing coaches. One more before we go to the next topic is what about Bill Belichick? Do you think he leaves New England? Do you think there's a chance?
I I think there has to be a talk about him controlling personnel. I don't
Okay,
I would be really disappointed, I think,
me too.
if he left and they didn't talk about taking that away from him first. I know it's like a very I don't know if it's like a prideful thing or what it is, or if it's a trust. I mean, you win 6 Super Bowls. I mean, you get a lot of runway. You get a lot of like leeway to make your own decisions for however long. I think now with player personnel, it's kind of getting to the point where it's probably over with that, in my opinion. But as far as being the head coach, it looks like they're going to draft a quarterback. Either, I mean, they probably won't. Maybe they'll have the top pick. I don't know. I don't know if the Panthers are going to win very many games the rest of the year, but maybe they'll have like the second pick or something, and they'll get Drake May or whatever quarterback has is a combine warrior and goes up goes up the draft boards late in the season. I think for Belichick, though, I don't think I see it this offseason. I think they're going to give him one more QB.
One more QB.
Yeah,
All
and then
right.
talk about taking away player personnel.
All right. That's fair. That's fair. I would be very, it would be very odd to see Bill Belichick out of New England, because that's all I've known my entire life, essentially. Um, and it would be like Brady leaving and going to Tampa. That it would just feel weird, honestly. So I don't know. But those are the only coaches at this time I think that we've hit on that have a shot at being fired. And then Josh McDaniels, he's already been fired over in Vegas. And then
I
yeah,
mean,
all of it.
I don't think I see Todd Bowles getting fired for the Bucks, but I mean,
That's your team,
if they want to reset, I could see it.
maybe.
I could see it.
It'll be an interesting offseason, I think, for Tampa.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Evans could be gone and everything. So
Yeah, I think we're in the market for a QB. Baker Mayfield just got hurt too, so we'll see what happens with that. But moving into the NBA in-season tournament, we talked about this a little bit like before the NBA season started about
hmm
whether or not this would be successful. Kind of, I think it's making stuff interesting. I think it is more complicated than people want to admit. I mean, I remember initially when people said
hmm
it was complicated, I think there was a lot of people getting shit on for it,
Yep.
but it
Yep.
is not exactly the easiest to follow. As a fan, you do have to do a little bit of work. I mean, and it's America. We're not used to the group stuff all that often,
Mm-mm.
especially in sports that we follow consistently, but it's, kind of a version of divisions, right?
Yep.
Um, how are you
So
liking it? Has it been successful for you in your eyes?
so I think it's done well. I think the courts are cool. I like that little look for it. It gives teams that may not be as good. Like look at the Pacers. They're sitting at 4-0. They've already clinched a spot. Like it's a nice little incentive. What is it? 500 grand for each player? Like that's a lot of money. So, and if you're like a let's say you're like a rookie or something on a rookie deal, like you're a late second rounder that's sitting the bench the whole season, you get yourself another 500K in your pocket. I mean, come on. That can be life-changing money for your family. So it's good incentive, I would say. Uh the Magic, they're sitting at 3-1 at the top of Group C in the East. I mean, I think it's great. I'm happy for all the teams that are doing well and all the players that can benefit from this. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I think once we get out of this, what I guess the knockout stage, it'll get a little bit more competitive, and I think people will take it more seriously. I remember seeing Lillard after the first game. He was like, "Yeah, we don't really even know what the hell's going on. We just treat it as another basketball game." But I think once they get into the more playoff side of it, if you want to call it, I think it'll get a little bit more competitive, and people will take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been pleasantly surprised. I was definitely like against the idea of no automatic play-in qualifier or whatever. I know that there were a lot of people saying like, oh, like if your team, qualified for that, they'll just mail it in. I really don't think that a play-in qualifier would, you know, be like be enough for your team to mail it in the rest of the year. And then, maybe possibly if you got a play-in qualifier, but you finished higher, you get home court advantage no matter what seed you're playing. Maybe, I don't know. That might be a pretty massive reward. But, I thought that was the level that you needed to be at to make this work or make this competitive, and players want to do this. But it looks like the financial incentive and the courts and everything that has made this feel different than the regular season has worked to an extent. I mean, obviously they're going to have their issues as far as the season being 82 games, but I think it has been pretty cool to see. And the courts, I think that they're really ugly. In
Oh,
all
really?
honesty, yeah, I do. But I love that it's different. I'm not one of those old man yells at clouds like like it's different. And they look like the my team courts that you'd have in 2K, where it just throws
Okay, yeah.
off like the depth perception. I'm surprised players haven't really complained about it, or if they have, I haven't seen it. But to me, I remember they were complaining about like like when during COVID in the bubble, like they were shooting at a hoop that was like that looked a little different because it didn't have the crowd behind it and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think everybody's really down for it. It's cool to see, even if it's ugly looking. But for the most part, it does feel different. And I like that. The quarterfinals start December 4th and they go through the 5th the following day. And then the semifinals on December 7th and the 83rd game, the championship game, December 9th. So it's coming right up.
Hmm,
I think it's been a success so far. I'm surprised.
I would say so. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still basketball, so that's all people really care about, right? I mean, it might look a little different, but at the end of the day, it's still basketball. So,
Absolutely. Okay. Now we're back to the NFL, covering everything from week 12, the biggest game of the week.
hmm
Bills lost a tough one to the Eagles in the rain. They are now on a bye before they play Kansas City. Biggest takeaways.
Jake Elliott is the man, the myth, the legend. He is him. He is the new Justin Tucker. I think Justin Tucker actually this season is has missed a lot from from 50 plus. I don't know if you want to pull that up, but I think he's like only hit one of seven, two of seven on the year, one of five, something like that, somewhere around there. So he's not been Justin Tucker, but Jake Elliott is that new guy. He hit a 59 yarder in the rain on on a field that was destroyed from poor weather, and he just put his nuts into a wheelbarrow and just rolled it out. Like that's what he does. He just comes out there and he just is him. But Josh Allen, he had himself actually a pretty good game fantasy wise. He had 339 yards, two touchdowns in the air, and then he also had 81 yards on the ground with two touchdowns rushing. Gabe Davis had 165 yards or 105 yards, my bad, and one touchdown. And then on the other side, Jalen Hurts, I don't understand why he is the MVP favorite right now. His numbers are not MVP-esque at all. I mean, he benefits from three to four of his players pushing him from the back. I get it. He squats 600 pounds. I get that. But when you have dudes also that are massive, AJ Brown and who's their backup tight end? I don't know. Whatever. Uh, what pushing you from the back? Like, I'm sorry. I'm not really impressed by that. When I saw a picture on X, I won't call it Twitter anymore. I think it's grown into being called X now. Um,
Hot take.
I'll stand by it. I'm used to it now. I'm tired of it. Anyways,
Where?
sorry, I'm rambling. But it was Drew Brees' numbers from what 2011, 2012 when he was the runner-up for MVP. He had like 46 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, and right now Jalen Hurts has 18 touchdowns and uh I think 11 interceptions, and he's the MVP favorite right now. It's just it looks like they're just going to give the MVP favorite to the team that has the best record or the best team in the NFL. And by the way, Philadelphia is probably the ugliest 10-1 team that we've ever seen in my eyes because
Well, there was that ugly Steelers team that was like 11-0. But yeah, I mean, well, look, you just got to win the games, man. Okay,
it's not college.
there are plenty of teams that are not winning all their games, like the Eagles. They're 10-1. I'm surprised, and I think when we look back on this season, we'll be shocked that the one loss that they have is against the Jets.
Yeah, that's wild. They
But
very easily could be undefeated.
okay, I'll
Should be.
circle back to the Bills real quick before we get into the Jalen Hurts MVP talk. Yeah, Josh Allen did not play bad. It was mainly the second half and then the miss to Gabe Davis that everybody's been replaying. He had him in the end zone. If he makes that pass, they win the game. Um, that that is the kind of pass that is plaguing Josh Allen's reputation right now. It is the wildly inaccurate, the memeable videos and about like, oh, this is Josh Allen, classic Josh Allen. He's doing it again. Like he's got this terrible, like this terrible accuracy, just way off the mark on whatever. And then obviously he threw a pick during the game. I think as far as the Bills are concerned, they looked a lot better. And to compete with the Eagles, I'm not trying to give like a moral victory to the Bills right now because that's certainly not what they need. They need a lot of catch up. Um, but for the most part, this Bills team impressed me. This Eagles team, I think, is the best team in the NFL. They're not winning pretty, like you said, but I think that they're the best team in the NFL. I will say hats off to the Bills. I'm not ready to give up on them just yet. I'm not picking them to make the playoffs, but I would not be surprised if they could pull together a win next week, against Kansas City after their bye.
After their
So
bye.
I don't know. I'm not ready to pronounce them dead just yet. But moving to the Eagles and their MVP candidate, I guess you got to mention his rushing touchdowns. I believe he has the record for rushing touchdowns in a season now. He beat Cam Newton's record, or maybe it was some. I don't think it was career record. That would have been crazy, but he's racking them up. I think he's got 10 or 11 now, or maybe it was the fastest to that number or to a double-digit number. I can't remember, but those kind of count. I mean, with what they're doing with the brotherly shove, I don't really like. I don't really think that the play is like should be outlawed because it's unstoppable. I just think it's a little unfair when a defense can't push their own players into you, and but the offense can, and that was the rule for a while. But for the most part, I think that's where it's looking. I mean, but if you look at the MVP conversation in the entire NFL, who else?
Tua.
Tua.
Tua's been playing really good. I have to, and that's not even biased. Like, come on, he's been playing really, really well. He's one of the, he is the most accurate passer in the NFL right now. And there was a pass. Okay, for example, there was a pass in this game that Jalen Hurts, he like lobbed it. I don't know. I was just like, dude, that was not a good pass. He like lobbed it, and I don't even know who it was to. But then I thought about like if that was Tua, Tua would have slung that thing in there, and it would have just been on a dime, and it would have been perfect. But Jalen Hurts was just like a little lob pass. It just didn't look. It didn't look that good. And I felt like if Tua had made that same pass, people would have been like, "Oh, that wasn't that good of a pass." But I don't know. But
I
who
think
else? Lamar
I
Jackson.
think Tua needs that signature win, like the
No, he
Dolphins.
does.
Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, 100%. They definitely do. And they have that chance when they have the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Bills. If they go and win all three of those games, I'm sorry. Like they could end this season at what? What is it? 14 and 3? They could very easily be 14 and
Yeah,
3.
because before that they have the Commanders, Titans, and Jets.
Yeah. I will say that the Dolphins definitely they need to take care of business right now. They can clinch the division before Christmas Eve. They can clinch the division before they play the Cowboys. If they win their next three, they take care of business. And then I think the Bills have to lose like what, like two, two of their next three, or no, I think if they lose, if the Dolphins win this week while the Bills are on a bye, they gain that game, so now they're up three. Then if they win the following week and the Bills lose to the Chiefs, now they're up four games with like four to go, five to go. So they can pretty much clinch the division before um, Christmas Eve, which would be very impressive and very exciting.
That would help
But
his
that's not.
MVP odds.
I think it would. I mean, if you're man, listen, I think Tua has a very good shot at it, but also Patrick Mahomes, he's always in the conversation, but I don't think he's going to win it this year. Lamar Jackson's been playing really, really well, so it's not over yet, not at
No,
all, not
it's
even
not over,
close.
and it looks like it's going to be a QB award because Miles Garrett, who was picking up a little bit of steam, just got an injury, and then Christian McCaffrey's kind of slowed down. I think the
Slowed
49ers
down.
haven't been as dominant either. So
Mhm.
that's just it's just what happens. This MVP year is not it's not that great. The Heisman year too in college football isn't that crazy too. It looks like Jaden Daniels, I think, would take that. But going into the Patriots again, Mac Jones played extremely poorly in their loss against the Giants. We talked about where they could go coaching wise if they would move on from Bill Belichick. Is this it for Mac Jones?
It has to be, bro. Like, there's no way. Like, you cannot go 12 of 21, 89 yards and two interceptions. And those two interceptions were on him too. Like, and then when you look, you got Bailey Zappi behind him. He was 9 of 14 for 54 yards. So it's like they just don't have a quarterback at all. But granted, he doesn't have that many weapons. I mean, Devontae Parker, he's never been a weapon in his entire life. He's never been good. He was never that good with the Dolphins. Like they just, I don't know why. He's a big wide receiver, and they just can't utilize him. Gasecki as well. I don't know. He's got great hands, but he ain't doing anything. Juju, he's he's good for dancing. I don't know. Like, and then Stevenson, he's been good. He was good on the ground. He's been good on the ground. Demario Douglas, like if that's your leading receiver, like I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't have weapons, but at the end of the day, he's been benched now like how many straight weeks? I feel like we're always like, oh, is Mac Jones gonna play? Is he gonna start? And then he ends up starting and he doesn't end up finishing this game. I mean, this is getting pretty ridiculous. They don't have a quarterback. Bailey Zappi is not the answer, so I don't know why they keep going to him. I'm very tired of seeing him out on the field, but I guess they're very tired of seeing Mac Jones out on the field. So I can't really fault him too much for benching Mac Jones. I mean, he did not play well, but Bailey Zappi, I've seen enough with that too. I think at the end of the day now with the Patriots, they're gonna take a QB or wherever they're at the top of the first round.
Yeah.
I think that's just what's gonna happen. As far as the Giants though, shout out Tommy DeVito. I had kind of taken New York by storm a little bit. Daniel
Oh,
Jones. Daniel Jones, this could be an interesting conversation too. I don't know if he's gonna be back.
Hmm.
Maybe he'll be back just because of the contract. I mean, I don't know exactly what his timetable looks like, but he probably won't be the week one starter for the Giants. So they might be in the QB market too. Um, but it looks like both of those teams will not have the same quarterback next year because I think Mac Jones is done. All right, but Ravens move into the number one seed. Um, I don't think a lot of people are recognizing the Ravens as the top team in the AFC right now. I think because they've had in all of their losses, in their three losses, they've had just blown leads to teams that you would go, man, they lost to them. Even the Browns and the Steelers, man, really? I mean, technically the Browns, Steelers, and Colts are all playoff teams right now, but they led in all those games and then blew it at the very end. And Lamar Jackson did not play well at the end of those games. I think that's why not a lot of people are recognizing them as a number one seed.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're the one seed. I think that they have a good shot at keeping it for the next couple of weeks at least. They play oh no, they just play the Chargers. They play the Rams, and then they play the Jags.
Jags,
That's a good
49ers, Steelers, they have a
Dolphins in there
bye.
as well. They have a bye this week.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that I think that after they play the Rams, then they got themselves a little bit of a gauntlet to end the season with the Jags. That's a very even matched game, I believe. That could go either way. With it being in Jacksonville, maybe give the slight edge to the Jags. And then you're going out to San Francisco and playing the 49ers. That's a tough game. That's also on prime time on Christmas Day. So that's going to be very tough going up against Christian McCaffrey and the rest of that team. Then you go and you host the Dolphins. The Dolphins, I mean, I've been saying it the whole time. Their offense is fantastic. Um, so that will be another very interesting game. And then you got the Steelers, where you're hoping that you can revenge the loss that you had earlier in the season. What, week five? Week five. So uh, they'll have to prove some stuff. Uh, if they get that number one seat, they will have earned it for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely where we figure out like what team that the Ravens are, if they are
Hmm.
serious, if they are Super Bowl contenders. Because I remember when they beat the Lions, and then 2 weeks after that they killed the Seahawks. I was all on board with this team being like the best in the NFL. I thought at that point they were playing better than any team in the NFL. Then they had a disappointing loss against the Browns, but they've gotten back on track. And I will say, not a lot of people I think are respecting them right now because obviously they have their bye. So we'll see if Kansas City and the Dolphins can tie them up and what kind of tiebreakers go into that. If I don't know exactly what would happen if both of those teams won, but like with the tiebreakers and stuff, if they'd move down to the three seed. But as far as the Ravens are concerned right now, I think you have to be very happy where you're at. They've given themselves a little bit of wiggle room as far as the Rams, Jags, 49ers, Dolphins gauntlet looks. We did mention when we were talking about the Steelers that the Ravens could sit their players during that game. In my opinion, um, if the Ravens need that win to get the number one overall seed, there should be no reason why they don't pull out a win there.
Hmm.
They should not lose two games to the Steelers this year. I think they're a much better team than that. Now, would I say that they're Super Bowl contenders if they were to get that number one seed? I think I would be convinced if they were able to beat the 49ers and the Dolphins. I could be convinced. Now, could they beat the Chiefs? I think the Chiefs are beatable, but I'm so impressed with their defense.
Hmm.
So impressed with the Chiefs defense. I don't know if I could go that far.
I don't know if I could go that far either. Um, Especially, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when the Ravens were down in Miami and they just stifled and completely stopped Lamar Jackson. I felt like that was like the scheme, and I'm sure that the Chiefs will be able to do that if that were to come to it. Like if it comes to a Chiefs and Ravens playoff game, I would say go look at that film from a couple years ago and that's how you'll stop Lamar Jackson because it was so shocking when it happened. So I don't know. We'll have to see what happens there, but I agree with you fully. Like if they can beat the 49ers and the Dolphins, then I would be convinced and that they have a really good shot at making it to the Super Bowl. But speaking of Super Bowl, what about the Lions? Like can they get there with Jared Goff? I I don't know.
I don't think so. I think after what I saw on Thanksgiving and even the week before with the Bears and their comeback win over them, I question this team's ceiling. I've been going back and forth, 1 or 2 wins in the playoffs, but I just don't see this team being able to make a true playoff run to get to the Super Bowl or past the conference championship game. Like, I just don't see it, especially with the Eagles and the 49ers. I think I was initially saying that I could see them beating the 49ers. I can't see that right now. I can't see that. And then also the Cowboys, like, Cowboys look good. They've been beaten up on some bad teams, but um, I just don't see them beating any of those upper echelon NFC teams that do have a quarterback for the most part. So I'm kind of selling my Lions stock a little bit. They were just the number one, or no, excuse me, not the number one seed, but they were just in contention for the number one seed. Now I don't think they'll be able to catch the Eagles, but I don't
Yeah.
see it.
Listen, we've loved the Lions all season, and I am excited to see them in the playoffs because I think they will get there. But yeah, with this loss to Green Bay, that's really really tough. Very shocking as well. We never talked about our pick'ems. Have you been doing them, by the way? Have
Yeah,
you kept
yeah, I've
up
been
on them?
doing them. I've been
All
doing them.
right, good, good. I've kept up on mine. Actually, while we've been gone, I've been doing damn well. Like I think the first week I went like what I think I went like 12-5 or something, and then last week I might have went 11-6, somewhere around there. I don't remember what the exact number was, but I was doing pretty well. But again, as for the Lions, I don't know. I love the Lions. Uh, they are the brand new Lions. They're not the same old, but I just don't know if Jared Goff will be able to lead them to the to the Super Bowl. I don't know if I can see it with the rest of the NFC as well.
Yeah. Um, I think we're in agreement there as far as the Lions ceiling. We'll see what their matchups look like to open the wild card weekend. Maybe they could do some damage if there's a path, but otherwise, I think they're uh, I think they're just happy to be there for right now. Definitely a
For sure.
successful year, regardless. The fact that we're even talking about that is impressive. But moving into college football, before we get into our Thursday night football preview, lots of stuff has happened. Huge games coming up this weekend. And there are 8 teams that could possibly be in the college football playoff um, after this week.
hmm It's
There's this is the most competitive, I think, towards the very end of the season that the college football playoff has been. The
it
fact that we have eight
sucks.
teams is unbelievable.
It sucks that we don't have the new playoff format this year. It's coming at what is it? I believe it's coming next year, correct?
Yeah, as far as I think they'll have to still figure some stuff out, but yes, I believe still 12 teams next year.
I wish if only it could have been this year because Georgia, they're still undefeated. Michigan still undefeated. Washington also undefeated. Florida State undefeated. They did lose Jordan Travis to that devastating lower leg ankle injury that it sucks for him and the entire team because they had a shot at a national championship with him on the field. But now that he's not, I don't really see it. Oregon, they had that one loss to Washington earlier in the year, and that was they still look really really good. Bo Nix is Heisman candidate for sure. Ohio State, it's they just can't get over that hump of beating Michigan. Ryan Day just can't do it. And then Texas, they beat Alabama earlier in the year, and they're gonna looking like they're gonna be the Big 12 champion. And then Alabama, they've had a resurgence ever since that loss to Texas. They've just gotten better every single week, and they have a real shot at beating Georgia this week. And that would just be it would ensue chaos essentially. What do you think? Because you're much more into college football than I am. I just have my strong opinions on it all because I do enjoy Florida State and all my buddies that go there. But what as a more biased or not biased as a more neutral person, less biased, what are your thoughts on this college football race?
God, where do I even start? Yeah, if Alabama won against Georgia, that would definitely be the most chaotic scenario in my opinion. Because Alabama is sitting at 8 right now in the AP poll. And I believe they were 8 in the college football playoff rankings last week. The rankings come out tonight. Yeah, they were 8 last week. That would be the craziest. I don't know where Ohio State's going to end up after their loss against Michigan. I mean, for me, maybe I think I might slot them all the way behind, like Alabama, because teams right now, because of head to head, are like they're very much slotted in their specific positions. Like I don't know if Alabama can jump Texas exactly without their win against. They'd have to beat Georgia. I mean, but right now you got Texas above Alabama because they beat Alabama. You have Washington above Oregon because they beat Oregon, but they're going to play again. And usually the committee will go with the team that won last. Um, if Alabama were to win, is Georgia out? I don't think so, in all honesty. Like, I don't know exactly where that would put Alabama. I guess Michigan would be slotted up to number one. Michigan's got to take care of business against a good Iowa team. Iowa's offense isn't very good. So I think they'll be just fine. But Iowa is a good football team. So they'll need to take care of business with that. Um, I think
Washington, Oregon.
yeah, Washington, Oregon. I think Washington will, well, Oregon's favored, but I think Washington will win again. And that will slot them, I think, pretty firmly at three. Um, and if they were to win and Alabama won, I think that would perhaps move Washington to two because the Pac-12 has been so great to have gone
Hmm.
undefeated against the whole Pac-12. I think that would give them enough of an edge
I
over
agree.
Alabama. Like I don't think Alabama would just skyrocket either. Now would they jump Texas if Texas just beat Oklahoma State? Yeah, I think Texas really needed Oklahoma in that championship game. I think they needed Oklahoma State to lose to BYU last week, but they came back and they won. That would have given Texas a chance to avenge their only loss. The committee loves that. Would have given them a great opportunity there. Now I think they're probably the one team that's definitely in could win and could get jumped. Maybe outside of Florida State because Florida State, they're going to play Louisville and they just lost to Kentucky pretty
Hmm.
badly.
Yep.
Not a
At
huge
home.
fan of taking injuries into account, although I know the committee does that. This is a very long season, and there's a lot of players. I feel maybe it's more of like an emotional thing. I feel so bad because the players have taken care of business, and yes, they just played a very close game against a 7-loss Florida team, but at the end of the day, like
It's rivalry week. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
you're in the
Alabama's
swamp.
game was close.
Yep. Yep. Uh,
I mean, I don't really like it. I don't like taking injuries into account. You have 21 other starting players on that team. If they're going to pull out a victory pretty quickly after, handling the emotion that it would take or the emotional toll that it takes on you for your starting quarterback to have such a devastating injury, I think is impressive in of itself. I'm talking a ton of different scenarios right now. What do I think is most likely to happen? I do actually think Georgia's going to beat Alabama. I think they're going to show a lot of people like, hey, um,
we're Georgia.
yeah, yeah.
Like
We're
don't.
Georgia. We're two-time defending national champions. We're going to take care of business. I do think Alabama's really good. They're peaking at the exact right time, but they've had some close SEC games too. That should be noted. They've had some close games. They had a close game against Texas A&M, almost lost last week to Auburn. Um, I don't think that they're on that level right now. So I think they're going to win, and I think Michigan will win pretty handily over Iowa. Although, just shout out Iowa. Just wanted to say that's a good team. I don't know how they're not going to make a move as far as their offensive play calling is concerned. That's a good team. Everything else about them screams playoff, in all honesty, outside of that offense. It's truly so bad.
Yeah.
And that's why they're at where they're at. Now Washington and Oregon. I said I think Washington's going to beat Oregon again. This is a toss-up. I'm kind of going back and forth on it. I don't know for sure, but Oregon's favored. And Washington was able to pull out a late one last time they played. That was game of the year potential. This one might have that same vibe. But I think Washington will win. So I think it'll be Georgia, Michigan, Washington. And then as far as the ACC championship goes, I think Florida State's going to lose to Louisville. I do actually believe that despite Louisville losing last week, I do think that they're going to lose. I think losing Jordan Travis is very, very tough. And I don't know exactly what the status is on their backup quarterback, but he got knocked out late in that Florida game. I don't know if he's going to come back and play. Maybe he does.
No, he came back and played in that game. Like he
Oh,
came back into the
okay.
game.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I didn't want to outright say that I thought that he may have came back and played,
No,
but
he did.
yeah, he was.
that was
Hey,
a
more
nasty
power
hit.
to him. I guess he's coming back, but I still don't think that that'll be enough for
Yeah.
them to beat Louisville. They needed Louisville to win that game
Yeah,
last
they
week.
did.
That would have been like a lot of help for them because
Yeah.
committees respected that team, but I do think that they will finally fall. And then as far as Texas and Oklahoma State, I think Texas is going to take care of business against Oklahoma State, and
So then,
they'll be slotted up, and Texas will be at 4. And I do think that Texas
okay.
would get in over Ohio State. I think we'll see the committee. If they put Ohio State above Texas, at what, like 6?
Ohio State current. Oh well.
Yeah, because then
In the
all the teams will
AP.
move up. All the teams will move up. Oregon will be at 5. If they
Yeah.
move Ohio State to 6, I think everybody's probably going to lose their mind a little bit. But I think the committee will then flip it after the conference championship games and put Texas above after their win over Oklahoma State. And they would obviously jump Oregon as well because Oregon would lose in my scenario. And so I think
Yeah.
that'll be the 4 teams.
Okay. So you think Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Texas?
Georgia,
Those are
Michigan, Washington, Texas.
in that order. All right. That's very interesting. I'm gonna go with. I don't know. Do I want to go with the chaos scenario? Because I don't know. I haven't watched enough. I saw
It's
heroic
possible.
that heroic touchdown from Alabama and Milrow uh, at the end. That was absurd. Um, I just don't see. I don't know if I see Bama beating Georgia. It would be it would be crazy. Um, it would make for the chaos scenario to ensue. But I'm probably gonna. I'll stick with just all undefeated teams. I think Florida State will go in there and they will do it for Jordan and they will do it for the entire university because it's been so long since they've gotten there. And I have to, I got to stick to my roots. I got my buddies over there. I know that they would be ecstatic to be in the playoffs and stuff during what's it called, during the New Year's Six bowls and everything like that with Florida State playing in that. That would just be sick. So
I'm
I think
most
it'd be a lot of
interested.
fun.
I'm most interested where UCF's going to be, but continue. Go.
Oh no, UCF, they're probably gonna play at what, USF or something? Is that what's
Boca Bowl. Boca Bowl.
Boca Bowl?
Bro,
What about the
we gotta go. We gotta go if they go to
really?
Boca Bowl. Dude, I
Oh
want
man,
to.
that would be hilarious. They played against BYU a couple years ago in the Boca Bowl, actually.
Yeah. And then I
And
thought
then
so last year we lost in the Mayo Bowl, right? To Duke.
something, yeah, something like that. And then we beat UF a couple years ago in the Gasparilla Bowl over in Tampa. And then the year before that, which one was that one? I
Was
think
that
that
the
was the
BYU
Boca
one?
Bowl. That
Or
might have been
no?
the Boca Bowl.
Maybe we were, yeah, maybe that was the BYU Boca Bowl. Yeah, because
I
that
don't
was
know.
maybe Heupel's last year or Malzahn's first year. I don't know. We'd have to look at it over again. Sorry, I threw you
I
off
don't know.
though.
No, you're good. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with what I think Georgia will win, Michigan will win, Washington, Oregon, whoever wins that should be number 3, and then Florida State at 4. I think that's how I'll go for it.
And that's absolutely possible.
Hmm.
That's absolutely possible. There's so many different scenarios. This has been a great year for college football. And,
100%.
as much as people do want the 12 team playoff, it usually does figure itself out. And
Hmm.
usually you have those 4 teams. And unfortunately, there is sometimes a blowout in that first round. And usually people are like, oh, like, gosh, like, why do we have the playoff or whatever? Just skip to the old format, the BCS or whatever. But last year's playoffs were good. But we'll see this year. Hopefully, good playoff games. That's all we hope
Hopefully,
for. And a good
that's all we
national
want.
championship game, not 65-7.
Oh
Biggest
my
blowout
gosh,
in
yeah,
championship game history,
yeah.
essentially. Okay, but moving into Thursday night football, Seahawks, Cowboys. Really good matchup, I'd say, for a Thursday
Super
night
good.
game that we're getting treated to.
Oh wow. So normally when I pull these up for the whatever for the preview, uh it's just the matchup predictor in the corner. But now we got the game odds up in the corner because of ESPN Bet that came out probably while we were gone. So what? We got Seattle, the open 45 and a half, over 45 and a half,
Oh, I'm
Dallas
seeing 40. Oh,
-7.
yeah, I see that now. Okay. I thought you meant the
Yeah.
total for the game.
The spread is 9. Ooh, this is fun. You got the money line over there. Ooh, we might have to get into ESPN Bet a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh
you know
man,
what? Okay, wait. Hold up. The line is 9.
that's the spread right that I'm looking. What
Actually,
I
you know
see.
what? That kind of makes some sense
Why do you say that?
because the Cowboys destroy teams that aren't technically better than them. They kill some of these teams. They do not play down to competition. The one you can criticize whatever you want about this Cowboys team. You can pick them apart, but when they play a team that does not have as good of a record as them, they kill them. Outside of the Josh Dobbs led Cardinals team.
I was literally gonna say those
Okay,
exact words.
the goat himself. Outside of that team, they kill teams, bro. 40-0 on the Giants, 30-10 on the Jets, 38-3 on the Pats. They took care of business against the Rams 43-20, Giants 49-17, Panthers 33-10, Commanders 45-10. They are knocking some of these lines out of the park. We talked about the Giants line. We were like, oh my God, this is the biggest line that we've seen all year.
And yeah, and
They
we were
covered.
like, yep, they covered. So, oh
I
man,
mean, the
I'm
Seahawks, I think, are better than all those teams I just rattled off. But
100%. But Dak has been playing at a really, really high level now for the last couple of weeks. I mean, look at those games. I mean, 49, 33, 45. Some of those being pick sixes for sure, but Dak has been okay. Let's look at the Giants. He's had, let it load. Sorry, my computer's a little slow. He had 4 touchdowns, 404 yards there against the Giants. And then against the Panthers, he had only 189 yards and 2 touchdowns. So we're at about 600 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then Commanders, he had 331 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he's got 10 touchdowns and just shy of 1,000 yards over his last 3 games. That's pretty damn good. I don't care who you're playing. It's the damn NFL. Like, if you're doing that, that's impressive. So maybe the line being 9, maybe do we take that one?
okay,
I would
wait. This
take
is
it.
sounding like a Cowboys infomercial right now.
I
The
know we're
Se-
not
the
like that.
Seahawks, okay, I know, but the Seahawks need this.
They
The
do.
Vikings are hot on their tail. They just had a terrible loss last night against the Bears. Um,
Hmm.
but the Packers right there too, and the Rams. And obviously the Saints. I think those are the teams that are in the hunt right now. I mean, I think the Bucks are still alive technically, but no. Um, so they have some teams hot on their tail right now, and if they were to lose, they'd drop to 6-6 along with the Vikings. Um, I think
That
the Seahawks definitely need this. Also, should be noted that both of these teams did play on Thanksgiving, so they have a full week of rest too.
mhm.
So it's just kind of like a Sunday game essentially for both of these teams.
Yep.
I think that's what the NFL does. So there's no team that gets caught in a short week more than twice on during the year. And
Okay, yeah.
the Cowboys always play on Thanksgiving. So
Always. Yep, yep, yep. I think that loss that they had to the Rams now 2 weeks ago was really unfortunate going down 17-16. They really needed that one. And then they lost last week to the 49ers. But if they can win this game against the Cowboys, they need this one. That's what you're saying. They need this one to be at 7-5 going up to play the 49ers in San Francisco. Then they got the Eagles. And then they got the Titans, Steelers, and Cardinals. Those last three are very winnable. So if they can get this win, then they can end the season with 10 wins. And I think that might be able to get them into the playoffs. But if they're sitting at 9, that would be, I don't know. It would be very tough for them for sure.
no, yeah, I agree. And now that I'm looking at the schedule, I mean, probably would not bet the house on the Seahawks making the playoffs, but
Mhm.
they definitely need this win. So we're in agreement there. So you got a pick for the game?
Give me the Cowboys.
Give me the Cowboys. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take the Cowboys too. I'm not gonna take them until they lose to a worse team. They're looking sharp, man. They're one of the best teams I think in the NFC. I mean, I'm very they got smacked against the 49ers, and that's the only hesitation I think that I have with this team.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know exactly how the playoff scenario, just off the top of my head, or the bracket would work for them to play the Eagles in the conference championship game, but I think that this Cowboys team is a conference championship team outside of this Niners squad, who's had their number. This has been a reinvigorated Cowboys 49ers rivalry. But we're both going Cowboys. And that looks to wrap it up for the first video podcast episode that we've had so far. Can you believe that we've come this far? Also, do you have any shout outs that you want to make? Any players, anything that is on your mind? I have one. I'm going to say shout out UTSA, shout out the Roadrunners. My pops went there. They're very good in college football lately. They kind of they've kind of made a bit of a run over the past few years after jumping from FCS to FPS. So shout out them.
I'll do a little baseball shout out. Shout out to the winter meetings that are going to start next week on the 3rd or the 4th. That's going to be very exciting. So we'll definitely get some baseball news for you. For anyone who doesn't know, I am definitely the baseball guy here. You're the college football, basketball, pretty much everything else, I would say. And then I'm just the baseball nerd. But yeah, shout out to that. I'm excited. I hope some news are coming out of that. We've got some news coming out. We've got Sonny Gray signing with the Cardinals. Cardinals just having the oldest pitching staff that I've ever seen in my life. Sonny Gray, Miles Michaelis, Lance Lynn, I think Matz, and then oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the fifth one. Kyle Gibson. They just signed him as well. So shout out to NFL GMs and I guess now the Cardinals pitching staff.
Wonderful. I'm glad that we were able to sneak a little bit of baseball in there. But this has been the 39th episode of the Streakers podcast, first on YouTube. I'm Patrick Previty. That's Mason Migliara. We'll see you Sunday previewing week 13 and talking about if we were right for this Thursday night game tonight.